Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my Unhaul Project video. So you might notice my TBR cart. What was once my TBR cart is now sitting next to me. Yeah, you can only see the books on the top shelf. We'll get to a tour of it later. But we have now turned this into an unhaul cart. If you watched my bookshelf reorganization from a few weeks ago now, I was running out of some room, and so your girl needed to figure out a way to get rid of some books. I don't know about you, I have this issue where if I've had a book that has been on my shelf for a really, really long time, I have never made it a priority to read it, so it's just been sitting there, but I don't want to get rid of it because I might want to read it someday in the future. Those are the books that my unhaul cart is now comprised of. I had to be a little bit ruthless. I definitely didn't get rid of as many of them as I probably should have. We've definitely got a lot more on the shelves that I could have put on here, but I decided not to, and here's where my mentality went. I am combining my Unhaul project into a mix of two video concepts. The first of which is going to be These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 Months, which is made famous, I'm pretty sure, by Becca in the Books. I know that she does this every year where she picks 12 books off of her shelf. I'm pretty sure it's 12, maybe it's not 12. I'm picking 12. And if she has not read them by the time that the video has come out 1 year later, so 1 year from the video being posted, then it's time to get rid of them. And that was brilliant to me because I have way too many books that I have just, every time I've reorganized, every time I've gone through them for an unhaul, they're the books that I'm just like, yeah, I don't see myself never reading them, but then I also never prioritize them. So that's what we now have here. We have definitely not 12 books, but we have at least 12 books that are going to be used in that particular Unhaul project. The remainder of them are going to be in an upcoming themed reading vlog. By now, I would say my 2022 reading goal video has been posted, I hope. So if you watched that video, you would see that one of my booktube goals for the year was to do some more themed reading vlogs. And one of them is going to be an Unhaul vlog that has been inspired by Chelsea over at Chelsea Zhao. I will link both her and Becca down below, but if you're here, you probably know who they are. If not, just go check them out. Both of them are fantastic. I believe last year, Chelsea did an Unhaul Project video where what she did was she selected a group of books that she was thinking about unhauling, and for every single one of those books that she chose, she tried at least the first chapter. And she was very cutthroat about this. If the first chapter did not grip her, then it was time for that book to go. And if the first chapter was interesting and she wanted to read the rest of that book, she decided to read the rest of that book. I can see this being very hit or miss for me. I can see me reading a chapter. This is my problem. You guys know, if you've been on my channel for a while, your girl struggles to DNF. And this is another reading goal that I have for 2022. I would like to DNF more books. Maybe I will count this in that regard. I don't know, but I do know that for this particular themed reading vlog, I'm not really good at secret vlogs, guys. Then I wouldn't have any content for you if I tried to do it. Maybe we'll get there one day. We are not there right now. As far as themed reading vlogs go, I do have it planned that at some point I will select some books off of this cart and do an entire video where I read at least one chapter of them, and if I am interested, I will keep reading and hopefully finish the book. If I am not interested by that first chapter, then it's time for that book to get out of my house. Or at least off my shelves, because the little bit of a snag here is obviously I am not the only person that lives in my house. John does read a lot off of my bookshelves as well. He likes to read just as much as I do. So if he's interested in one of the books that I have gotten on the Unhaul cart and would like to get rid of, that is its last chance in this house. It's not going back on my shelves. It might go in a stack somewhere else where it can be his Unhaul cart when he decides to prioritize it or read it or whatever. But they're not my problem anymore. That's pretty much what my goal is here, is for it just to not be my problem anymore. And that is what I'm planning on doing with all of the books that are on this cart. My cart got a little broken in the midst of my bookshelf reorganization. I did not show that. I think that I fixed it, but I'm not sure. It was carrying a lot of books at one time, and one of the legs, like, bent, but it seems to be okay now, but I didn't want to overload it with too many books just in case. So that being said, I'm going to go through the 12 books that I picked out for my These Books Will Self-Destruct, and then I will show you the rest of the books that are on the cart for the themed reading vlog that will come out at some point in the next year. Okay, so I did a little bit of rearranging because the books that I wanted to use for my These 12 Books Will Self-Destruct were not all in order on the top, but we're gonna go through them one by one, we're gonna talk about them. I'm probably not gonna do any super in-depth talks about what they're about, because if you're interested, you can go look them up. So the very first book that I have in my These Books Will Self-Destruct is Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. I know that this is a bit of a booktube darling, this entire series is. I actually own, I think, books 1 and 2, if not book 3 as well, and I've had it for 2 years. It is time for me to either read them or lose them, and this will be the determination of whether or not that happens. I will hopefully get to this book within the next year, and if I don't, then I guess it's probably time for that series to go, because if it's been on my shelf for 3 years and I haven't read it yet, we need to make some changes. Next up is The Fandom. I got this when I was first getting into BookTube, and I heard some really good things about it in terms of recommendations, but it's not really well known on BookTube, I don't think. But as far as I know, it's about a girl that gets transported into the world of one of her favorite, series, I guess. So I guess she's cosplaying and she is at a con and some freak accident happens and she gets transported into the world of her favorite series that she is there cosplaying. And it sounds fantastic, so I really don't know why I haven't picked this up yet. I am going to try and make it a priority this year. I really do need to get to it at some point. The next book is Mechanica by Betsy Cornwell. I have kind of gotten away from reading as much YA. That's not to say that I don't like YA as much. I'm just aging out of it a little bit, or maybe I'm appreciating adult fantasy more. I've always read a lot of adult fantasy and YA fantasy fairly evenly, but I have found myself reading a lot more adult lately. This came either randomly in a book box or I got it from the library sale or something like that. It was not very expensive, but it sounded really cool. It's like a steampunky kind of Clockwork Cinderella retelling, I guess. That's all that I know about it, which, I mean, it sounds really interesting, but I don't know that I'm really feeling fairy tale retellings right now, so we shall see how that one goes. Next up, we have Starcrossed by Josephine Angelini. I think this was another random used book, discount book kind of purchase. Look at this very 2000s cover. I think, let's see, 2011? Okay, that kind of tracks. So, I know nothing about what this is about. It's fantasy-ish? Urban fantasy-ish? She's 16, so it's YA. She's having nightmares, women weeping blood, and she wants to murder the new boy in school. So it sounds interesting, and I guarantee you that's why I picked it up, and at the time, the cover was great. I'm not really a huge fan of real people on the cover anymore, but, you know, it sounds interesting. It should be a relatively quick read. I mean, the font is fairly large, and it's under 400. No, it's not. The font is fairly large, but it is almost 500 pages, so we'll see. The next book is The Lantern's Ember by Colleen Houck, I think is how you pronounce that name. This was mostly a cover buy because, I mean, we've really got to appreciate that. I know that there is a witch, and I think that's pretty much all I know. Monsters and demons at bay for centuries. She's a witch dead set on slipping past a monster hunter. It's a love story. That's another reason why I picked it up, but it's been on my shelf for about 2 years, and we need to make it a priority or it needs to go. So this, it might hurt me a little bit to get rid of because I do adore this cover. I haven't heard anybody talking about this. I don't think the reviews were that bad for it, though. I mean, rereading the back of it, I am excited about it again, so maybe that will make me more likely to pick this up in the near future. The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg is one that caught my eye because of the cover, first of all, and then this is a theme, guys. I am a cover buyer, but I think that this involves, like, if Disney World were full of, like, automatons or robots or something, but one of the robots accidentally kills a guest at the theme park, and I think that this is, like, following the trial of said robot in, like, a mixed media and regular written form format. Okay, so it's not about somebody getting murdered, but apparently the robot starts to fall in love with somebody that works at the park or visits the park, but he turns up missing and presumed dead, and she is the one on trial for it. So I don't know where this goes, but that sounds really, really cool, and it still sounds really, really cool, and I really don't know why I haven't picked this up yet. This really should be a quick read, so hopefully I'll get to this soon. The next book is The Deserter by, I'm going to butcher this because it's Gaelic, Peter O'Guilan? O'Guilan? I have absolutely no idea. This was definitely a bargain bookstore buy, as evidenced by the stickers on the front that I have never been able to take off. It's sci-fi-ish. I know that the main character, well, the description calls him a cannibal, and that kind of freaks me out a little bit. I don't know how I feel about that. But apparently the world below the surface, kind of like, I don't know, the subway systems, or maybe deeper, kind of a thing, are very, very primitive, very Stone Age, and that is where our main character is from. For some reason, he is being forced to go to the surface, where things are very, very high-tech and futuristic. I don't know what causes this disconnect, I don't know why this character does this, but that is what happens, and that's kind of what this is about, the collision of his coming from a Stone Age era type place and entering a very futuristic, high-tech sci-fi thing. I don't know. It sounds pretty cool. I don't know anything else about this. I have never heard anybody talk about it. I'm pretty sure I just picked it up because that sounded interesting, but as the years have gone on, I have lost interest in this. We'll see. This next book is purely on here because, again, it has been a couple of years since I've gotten it, and it really does need to be prioritized. That is Heart of Iron by Ashley Poston. I'm pretty sure this is a space opera Anastasia retelling, and those are two of my big trigger words. I really do love space operas, and I really do love Anastasia. Why I haven't read this, I have absolutely no idea. It really does need to happen though, so, you know, let's hope that it being visible to me makes that more likely to be the case. So up until now, it really has been mostly YA, sci-fi, or fantasy, just because, like I said at the beginning, I do find myself starting to move away from reading more YA, just because it's just not vibing with me anymore. But the next one is adult, and I believe it is a mystery or a suspense, and that is The Last Flight by Julie Clark. This was the first book that I got in when I first started my book of the month subscription back in 2020, and at the time I was not really trying to use my skips. I was trying to force myself to pick something that seemed remotely interesting, and this was the result of that. It does sound okay. Me and thrillers, here's the thing. After I've read a thriller, I don't really feel the need to reread the thriller because you know the twist, you know what's going to happen, there's not really a point. So I don't really feel the need to prioritize them just because I know once I do, why am I going to bother putting it back on my shelf? That kind of happened here. I just never got around to it, and this is from June of 2020. That's what book box this was in. So all I know is that there's two women, and they end up on the same flight, but one of them ends up dying, and I think the other one moves away. Okay, so I checked, and apparently the one woman has a very abusive husband. She's working on escaping from him, and when she is getting ready to go on her flight, she meets a woman, and for some reason, they switch tickets and switch locations. She is supposed to be going to Puerto Rico, and instead she's going to Oakland, and the other woman is now going to Puerto Rico in her place. That plane crashes, and she is left trying to figure out how to assume the other woman's identity, I suppose? I don't really know how that works. I don't know if they look similar. They don't really talk about that in the synopsis, but we'll see. It doesn't sound bad. I haven't heard anything about it, though. Burning Midnight by Will McIntosh is a book that I got in, I believe, either as a subscription box book aside kind of a thing, or in another bargain bookstore. I really don't know. But it does say on the back that Burning Midnight is for adrenaline junkies and gamers, obsessive collectors, and people who can't get enough of crazy endings. So I was really into all of those things. I think it's sci-fi and treasure hunting for some kind of sphere thing that is very valuable in this world. It sounds really cool. Apparently the author has won a Hugo Award for whatever, that's worth to you. I am interested, but was clearly not interested enough to have picked this up since I got it, also probably back in 2020. So the next one is Blood Magic by Tessa Gratton. Tessa Gratton has written other things. I don't know why this is the book that I have of hers. I know nothing about this. It's a YA fantasy. I think it involves a girl who a grimoire lands on her front doorstep, and she tries to do some spells, and the boy next door sees her doing them, and she needs to figure it out. I assume they fall in love. I have no idea. Apparently, this is Tessa Gratton's very first novel, so I mean, it sounds interesting. It sounds more interesting to like teenage me or even younger me, maybe college age me. I don't really know about 28-year-old me, but I don't know. Last on this list is Mirage by Samaya Dowd. I heard a lot of people talking about this last year or the year before. I think Brittany the Bibliophile read this and loved it. And I really, really want to as well because the cover is gorgeous. I think that the main character is like down on her luck. She's not from a very well off place. And apparently she gets kidnapped and taken to, I don't know if it's her kingdom or the neighboring kingdom, because she looks a lot like that princess, and she is forced to stand in as that princess, and like, if there's an assassination attempt, then she would die instead, that kind of a thing. That sounds really, really cool. Again, just not something that I ever managed to make a priority. It's very, very short, so there's not an excuse for it. I definitely am still interested in reading it. I think it's under 300 pages. It's literally like barely 300 pages. So I definitely want to make this a priority in this next year because I don't want to get rid of it because it's so pretty, but you know, I'm trying to be more cutthroat here, so this is where we're at. These last ones are 6 books that I am planning on doing in that themed reading vlog, so I'm not going to talk about them at all other than telling you their author and their title because I am clearly going to go into them more at a later date. So the first one is Pride by Evie Zaboy. I've had this for a while and I want to read it, and so we're going to force myself into doing that by doing a themed reading vlog. Next, we have another suspense that came in a Book of the Month box. This one is from July of 2020. That's 56 Days. No, 2021, sorry. It's 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard, and like I said about the last thriller, I would like to just read them and move on and see if I need to get rid of them or not, so that's why that's on this list. The book that came the month before that was Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. Mostly I got this in that box because I loved Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian. I did not get the same vibes from this. I actually had an arc of Half Sick of Shadows as well, and I just never read it because once I tried, the prose was really not for me. I haven't heard too many amazing things about this since, so it kind of just derailed my wanting to read this at all. And so I would like to just force myself to do it and get it over with, and if I DNF it, then I DNF it, because if I don't care about it, there's no need for it to be on my Book of the Month shelf. The next book up is A Cast of Stones by Patrick W. Carr. I have no idea where this book came from, but it's been on my shelf for a very long time now. And I think it's kind of your typical boy stumbles into kingdom, political intrigue kind of mess, chosen one type of fantasy. Other than that, I have no clue what it is about. I have way too many other books that follow a very similar kind of path that I would like to prioritize reading, so here we are. Next we have Grace and Fury by Tracy Banghart. Again, it's been on my shelves for a long time. I do not love this cover. The people staring at me are kind of freaking me out. I think it involves 2 sisters. And yeah, that's all I've got for this one. We'll see if I like it or not. And the very last book that I'm going to talk about might be a little bit controversial, but that is God's Grave by Jay Kristoff. Didn't love Nevernight, guys. I really didn't. I have loved every book that he has written with Amy Kaufman. I have loved the Illuminae Files. I have loved the Aurora Cycle. I did not like Nevernight very much. I didn't hate it, like I wasn't hate reading it or anything, but I definitely didn't like it enough to make me want to run on to God's Grave. It felt very edgelordy. It was just a little bit too dark. It wasn't like so dark that it was like impossible for me to want to move on, but it was definitely darker than I would prefer. Like I didn't really like the main character. I had the further relationship spoiled for me, and after what happened between those characters in the first book, I don't really love that relationship for the future books, and that's enough for me to not be enthusiastic about moving on in the series. So if I don't like God's Grave, then I'm just not going to keep Nevernight either. There's no point in me keeping both of them if I didn't like either of them. Maybe the second book will redeem the first one, but who knows? We'll see. Okay, so that is my Unhaul Project plans for the next year. I guess I will revisit this with you guys next January of 2023, and we'll talk about whether or not these books have got to go. It's very possible that the ones that are going to be in the themed reading vlog will, you know, already be gone at that point, because if I started them and didn't like them in the themed reading vlog, then I'm going to get rid of them sooner rather than later. And it's entirely possible that I could end up doing a second themed reading vlog by the end of this. Who knows? We'll find out later on, but that is it for my Unhaul Project video. I'm probably not going to link all of these in the description box down below. We shall see. It depends on how enterprising I'm feeling, because that is a lot of books for me to throw down there. But if you did want to go into my description box, you will find a rep code for 5% off of a monthly subscription to Unplugged Book Box. So that code is CAT5. That'll be next to my Book of the Month affiliate link, and under that you're going to see links to my Goodreads, my Twitter, and my Instagram in case you guys wanted to follow me on any of those. Other than that, that is it for me today, guys, so don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me, but I will talk to you in my next video. Bye!